Hi, my name is Graham, and I'm a resident of Long Lake, Cloverdale, and I'm going to talk to you in this video about an important thing. That's driving the boat in shallow water. You want to make sure you do this correctly so you protect your boat, your engine, and also you protect the bottom of the lake. So when you're driving the boat, it's important to be aware of the trim of your motor. I have my boat set up right now where the trim is all the way down. When the trim is all the way down, my boat has the largest draft. You can tell the draft of your boat simply by looking at the water mark. I have a water mark right here on my boat. With my trim all the way down to the ground, I can see that with my trim down, this boat draft is 30 inches. Notice if I put the trim up now, with my trim up now, I can drive the boat in another 8 inches. I've added 8 inches of less draft so I can drive in 8 inches of shallower water with my trim up. Another important thing to notice about the trim is that with my trim down, the thrust from the propeller, which is what pushes the boat, the thrust from the propeller is straight back or at a downward angle. When my trim is up, the thrust from the propeller now is at an upward angle. And the thrust coming off the propeller is really important for protecting the bottom of the lake, because if we send the thrust down towards the bottom of the lake, we damage the bottom of the lake. We disturb the natural habitat down there. We a bunch of sediment and we hurt the lake. So when we're driving in shallow water, we want to have our trim up, number one, to protect our boat, but also to protect the bottom of the lake. Notice with the trim up, if I were to hit something, the angle of my skag here is going to push the boat up, and it's going to protect the prop by pushing the prop up away from whatever it is I'm hitting. The trim down, it's going to not have that same angle, and I'm more likely to hit something with my prop. With the trim up, I'm pushing the thrust upward into the water column, and I'm not damaging the bottom of the lake. Now I'm going to take us out on the water, and I'm going to show you the shallow areas in Long Lake where we need to be careful. And also I'm going to show you different ways to drive the boat and good ways to drive the boat so that you can protect your boat and protect the bottom of the lake. So one thing that will really help direct you in terms of staying in the deeper water is the color change. Notice the shallower water up there is brown, and as we transition to this blue, that is the deeper water. That's the safe water to travel. Anytime you see the water where the bottom is brown, that means we're getting shallow, and those are areas to be careful. So the turbulent water that's directly behind your engine is called the prop wash. It's basically what's happening as your prop is spinning and the thrust from your motor. And you can see that I'm driving through shallow water right here, and my prop wash is clean, meaning there's no dirt behind me, there's no weeds I'm churning up or anything like that. So your prop wash is always going to be giving you feedback on whether you're damaging the bottom of the lake. If I was driving in shallow water and I was damaging the bottom, I would see a large dirt trail behind my boat. So as you're driving, you can always have some feedback by just looking out behind your boat. If the prop wash is clean, you're not damaging the lake. If you have a big dirt trail behind the boat, you're damaging the lake, and you need to adjust the way that you're driving. So the way that I'm about to drive the boat here is the most damaging way to drive in shallow water. Notice the boat is not on plane. I'm powering it up, and the bow is rising, and what that does is it angles the prop thrust downward towards the bottom, and this is the most damaging driving that I see on the lake. So this is what we want to avoid. Instead of powering up just before you get on plane, either go at idle speed or power it right up and plane the boat out, because once the boat is planed off, the prop thrust is then directed back, not downward, directed level, and it doesn't damage the bottom. So that kind of in-between speed where the bow is rising on the boat is the most damaging, and we want to avoid that in shallow water. So the first shallow area to be aware of is almost directly across from the launch ramp. So there's the launch ramp, and here I am on this shallow flat. Hopefully you can see in the video that this is pretty shallow. I'm marking 3.5 feet right now. And this extends, this peninsula extends almost out into the middle of the lake here. So just to give you some frame of reference, here are the houses that I would see where this peninsula is out in front of. And again, so we're talking 3 feet of water extending almost out to the middle of the lake. So here's the next area to be aware of. It's the channel. The lake constricts between the two sections, and in the channel here we get shallow. It's about 3.5 feet. You can drive your boat on plane through the channel if your boat is less than 25 feet or draws less than 3 feet. Sometimes it gets congested in the channel with boat traffic and you will have to go slow. If you're going slow, please be aware and to drive responsibly so that we're not disturbing the bottom. The next shallow area to be aware of is just after we come through the channel into the smaller end of the lake. There's a large peninsula that sticks right out into the middle. You can see I'm right in the middle of the lake. And so right directly in the middle, we're out here, we're 3.5, 4 feet deep. So we need to be careful of that. This side here is the shallow side. So as we're driving our power boats, we want to be on the west side of the lake there. All the way over that direction, going down along by the camp, that's where the deeper water is. I don't know if you can see in the video, but this whole peninsula is shallow all the way down for probably 300 or 400 yards down that way, and the deeper water is over here to the left. So the next shallow peninsula is just down from the camp, out in front of this white house here, and it's a peninsula that sticks about 1/3 of the way out into the lake. So again, 3.5, 4 feet deep, sticking right out into the lake. So this is an area to be careful. So here we are now down at the end of the lake. And this is the end of the deep water here as we reach the end of the lake. This area all up in here where the buoys are is a sandbar and a rock pile. It is all shallow in there. That should just be idle only. We shouldn't be even on plane driving through there. Usually when I'm taking skiers or tubers or something like this, this is the place I would turn the boat around and begin to head back down the lake. If you are going to travel down this way to the shallow end down here, I would say just drive using your shallow water techniques and watch your prop wash to make sure you're not damaging the lake.